You know our next guest in shows such as Crashing, Broadchurch, and Bridgerton. He recently received an Emmy nomination for his work in Fellow Travelers. All episodes are streaming now on Paramount Plus with Showtime. Let's take a look.
I have loved you my whole life. I've never loved anyone but you. You are my great, consuming love. And most people don't get one of those. I did. I have no regrets.
Please welcome to the show, Jonathan Bailey, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your Emmy nomination for this beautiful show.
Thank you very much.
Have you been to an Emmys before?
I haven't been to an Emmys.
Are you excited?
Yeah, very excited. Slightly nervous. But yeah, you know, we'll be there with Ron and Matt Bomer, who is also nominated.
The wonderful Matt Bomer in the clip, absolutely. It's a very, I think you'll have a lovely time. The best part about it is you just run into people who you like and respect their work and
you get to give them a high five. And
you get to high five, yeah?
Yeah. See you later at the moment.
And then, like, of course, the most important thing is, like, when is your category, right? Because, like, you want it a little bit later in the show because, you know, if you lose, then the rest of the night.
Oh, I see. Yeah. But I hear at the Emmys that there's a bar at the back and apparently you can duck
There
in
is a bar in the back. Did someone tell you they'd seen me there? This takes place over 4 decades. This show, based on a beautiful book. It takes place. We sort of start in the McCarthy era, the Lavender Scare, which I think a lot of people know less about. Were you familiar with that part of one of the worst parts of the 50s?
Well, yeah. I mean, no, I wasn't. And sometimes when you look back at history, and especially when it comes to sort of oppression and these dark moments, you question why they've been left out. But you know, it's amazing. Basically, President Eisenhower issued an order which triggered a witch hunt of gay men in DC. And so people were taking their own lives, they were being fired, they were being outed under the sort of guise of protecting the US nation against the sort of communist threat. And that's where the story starts. And Ron Nicewainer, who wrote Philadelphia, which is one of my favorite films and is incredible. But it follows the love story of these two men through 35 years. And you go all the way through the sort of disco era and the Vietnam War, and you end in the 80s, as you've just seen in that clip.
You know, obviously it's a limited series, so, you know, it's obviously fewer episodes, but the scale and the scope of it, you know, just in a matter of years is so vast. Is it exciting to know that you get to, you know, with less time maybe than you would on a full series, but you get to spend so many years with a character?
Yeah, and, you know, watching that clip before we come out, you know, just such fond memories of, for Matt Bomer and I to tell that story and the way that we look at each other. It just shows what an experience we've had.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just pinch yourself at moments. But, you know, the Emmy nomination means we can come back and talk about it again. And for anyone who hasn't seen it...
Yeah. It's a very beautiful show. It's a very sad show.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking.
There's top and bottom notes throughout.
Yeah. There's a very hard transition to the next thing I'm going to ask you about.
A hard transition.
There's some nudity.
Yes, there is some nudity.
Yeah.
And, I have to say, though, before we go forth, there are these beautiful sex scenes throughout, which are so important because you know, when you look at the sort of the power and the oppression of these gay men, when they come together, we explore how the blossoming nature of the landscape where they live, how that affects their sex lives, but also how they come together, and it's beautiful. Before we go forward.
Yeah.
But there are other things that you need.
Well, now I feel like... I feel like you've put me in an impossible situation.
I was put in many of those myself.
Yes, you were. And I don't know, would you call these stunt doubles? What would you call these, Jonathan?
I'd call them props.
Did you have a hand? Did you have a hand in the decision making?
Just one hand.
All right, now we're off and running now.
Well, no.
All right, so you had to choose. You had to choose a prosthetic penis.
Yes. So obviously for us, it's a kind of you know, a mundane thing to talk about these sex scenes, but I know it's fascinating. But we, you know, there's so many things that change with Tim, the character that I play. His, you know, he grew his hair, he had different hair, he had moustaches, and but there's one thing that remained the same throughout.
Yeah.
And when we started, obviously, you wear a protective layer, obviously to protect yourself and so it's not awkward. But for the nature of the show, you want to choose something that maybe reflects what's actually going on.
So is this how they laid him out for you?
Yeah, this was one of my first days on set, and you know, they've all got their different personalities. So
yeah, they really do.
When you're approaching character, you think emotionally, cerebrally, and you know, then you have to really make a big choice.
Is that what you did? You made the big choice?
No. I think it's only fair. I believe in representation for everyone.
Now, will you explain what this is?
No. Wait, hang on. So, hang on. So, I'll say, look, I want to show you this one first.
Okay, show me this one first.
So, obviously, you know, when you're telling a story, people don't talk about all the amazing, you get, you know, the costume lady, Beth, Ori, who did my design, and assistants, loads of people that keep you going. And on the last day, Beth, my amazing wardrobe assistant, cheered me up.
It's too late for that.
And the thing that I then got home, and obviously I took little Timmy with me wherever I went.
Yeah.
And I got home and I unpacked my suitcase to find...
Yeah. Oh, look!
which I feel sort of represents how I was feeling inside. At that moment.
You're about to do a Shakespeare.
From one Dickie to another.
Look at that. Richard II. Richard II is...
Yes,
yeah.
Richard II. I am going back to stage and I cannot wait.
How many years has it been since you've been on stage?
Well, I actually was on stage about just over a year ago.
Okay, great.
So it's recent, but I would say one of my biggest breaks in my career was being offered the role of Cassio in Othello with this, by the director Sir Nicholas Hytner, who I think is one of the best Shakespeare directors we have. And so I'm like really excited that he's invited me to play Richard.
Oh, that's great. So you've worked with him before. You get to do it.
I have.
That's great.
And it's 10 years since we worked together, so we invite you all to come along.
It must be such a difference when you feel safe with a director with an undertaking like that of doing Shakespeare.
I think, yeah, I mean, completely. Because, you know, I love the sort of rehearsal process of theatre is so unique. And you do just have to, you know, you do as much work as you can and then you turn up and then it's over to the director and couldn't be in better hands than Nick, yeah.
Very exciting. I will say, you know, Bridgerton obviously is a show. We've sort of, I've noticed when we have cast members from that show come out here, they all talk about the fact that it's a great difference. Like, getting recognized for something like that must be very special and must be very frequent.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's, but it's amazing. You know, it's amazing.
It seems like an amazing community of people who love that.
There is. Well, you know, romance evokes all sorts of passions, and I think that the source material and the show is brilliant. It offered such an amazing release, didn't it, in the pandemic?
It was the best. Absolutely the best. You also, though, for people who are maybe not looking to get all like, you know, charged up and in a froth watching a sexy show like Bridgerton, you also provide this. You did some work on the Calm app. This is, can you explain what the sleep story is?
It sort of looks like a preacher. Yeah. A love letter from an Englishman.
That's underneath.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever heard your voice and been like, wait a second, I've listened to your sleep story?
I've fallen asleep to you. Yeah, you're incredibly boring. No, no, yet to find the truth.
There we go, a love letter from an Englishman.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I remember it, yeah, because I think he was a sort of, the character was a captain of a ship in the sort of 15th century.
Of course.
Who wouldn't want to fall asleep to that?
Oh, who wouldn't? Just telling really boring, like, and then there was another wave.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on the nomination, and thank you so much for being here. Jonathan Bailey, everyone. All episodes of Fellow Travelers